Look, do you want to get started in Airbnb, but you don't have any money? Yes, there are ways to be able to do this, and I'm going to cover them in today's episode. Look, you can make money from Airbnb without owning a property, and it's called co hosting. This is the absolute safest way to be able to break into short term rentals when you have no cash. Now, as I go through this video, I'm going to share all the answers to questions that you have, like what exactly is Airbnb co hosting and how does it work? What skills do I need to be an expert co host? That's a big one. How do I make money from co hosting? I'm going to answer all of these in the video. And at the end, you can take action today to get started on your short term rental journey. But before I dive in, there might be some of you watching that have seen probably the most popular coaches and YouTubers and content creators in our space, and almost every one of them focuses on arbitrage. This video is not going to be about arbitrage. Why? Because that is the highest risk with the lowest reward out of any investment that you can go into. When you go into arbitrage, you have to rent something, you have to sign a commitment in a contract. You're going to have to personally guarantee that. Then you're going to have to go out and buy furniture. And, the upfront furnishing costs when you have no money are going to suck all of your cash dry. Then the negotiations become very, very complex in many cases. It's not as easy as when you're looking to rent an apartment and you walk up and they just do a quick, background check. They do a quick credit check and then you can be on your way and moving in 2 or 3 days. The negotiations can be complex. And as soon as you tell them you're going to arbitrage, they don't want you to do that. So a lot of these coaches are teaching you shady shit about how to get around that. But the other one, look, it's very intense competition. All this talk about Airbnb bust or Airbnb bust and, saturated markets. It's true all across the board, but it is accentuated in the arbitrage market because everybody has flooded to the exact same type of properties. So let me go back to what exactly is Airbnb co-hosting and how does it work? If you're already through this part and you want to get into, the skills that you need and how to accentuate those, then you can go ahead and fast forward to that. But for most of you, just the quick indoctrination is co-hosting is just like property management, except for it's more ethical. And here's what I mean by that. Most legacy property managers hide everything from the owner. They have their own software, they have their own portal. All the owner gets at the end of every month is a statement and an expense sheet, right? And they kind of put those together and they come in their statement and they say, hey, you've got this $1 million property that's beachfront, ski in, ski out, whatever, but you only made 2,000 bucks. That's because we made 4,000 and we took all of your money because literally they hide everything and they're not transparent. And then they charge for like marketing budgets and all this type of stuff. Co-hosting is completely different. At least if you do it the way that I do, and the way that I do it is the way that I would want to be treated as an owner because I own property first and I co-host second, right? So one of the big deals in co-hosting for me is the owner owns the assets. They own the Airbnb listing. They own the Verbo listing, booking.com, TripAdvisor, wherever you're at. If you have a Facebook page, they own it. You have a direct booking site, they own it. They own the pricing tool. Price Labs is what I use. They own that. If we build them out a touch stay guide, they own it. All I am is communication with their guests and a marketing agency and a revenue management agency. I'm optimizing the rates. Those are the only three things that I'm doing, right? And most importantly, I am the marketing and the revenue management agent for them, and they get 100% transparency to where they can see everything. They get paid, and then I get paid. I don't escrow. I don't take all the funds, hide the money in an escrow account, send them the invoice, and then cut them a check. The owners cut me checks at the end of the month, just like I would with a marketing agency or anything else. So, Bill, why would you do it that way? Because that's the way I want to be treated. That's the right way to be able to do it. I do believe in transparency. Look, I built over 1,500 websites in a marketing agency, and literally the reason I did it, even though it was a hard business and the margins weren't that great, is not because I wanted to make money at it, but I needed to take all of these people that were getting screwed by the hosting companies and they would hold them hostage with their website because they would have their files inside of their hosting, whether it's, HostGator or, GoDaddy or whatever. And they would hold that stuff and then charge a monthly retainer for doing nothing and was bullshit. So the same thing with these legacy PMs that hide everything from everybody. I want to be transparent. I want them to own everything because that's the way I would want to be treated. as an owner. So I do all that work. I pay for the cleaning upfront, the cleaners, and then I get reimbursed for maintenance and cleaning and everything at the end of the month. Well, Bill, if you do that, then how do you start with no money? Well, that's part of where your setup fee comes in. So I charge a $1,500 per property setup fee. So that should be enough on a typical 3, 4, 5 bedroom property to be able to get me through some $200 to $300 cleans to start generating cash flow. And I've got a delta, right? So when I start, I don't pay the cleaners until the end of the month when they invoice me. So if I'm expeditious and I'm quick, I should be, and my contract's written correctly, I should be able to get my retainer back. I do charge a $299 a month retainer. I already have my setup fee before I even start the work. So I have some working capital. That is something that's really critical to scaling any type of business, folks, is that you are creating working capital upfront. So that way you don't have to deploy your own cash. Now, think about it. Now, unlike arbitrage or owning a property, I don't have to buy furniture. I don't have to put up first month's, last month's rent. I don't have to do any of that type of stuff. I just go and acquire a co-hosting client and I charge them a setup fee. You might start with 500, $700, 1,000. You can do whatever you want based on your skills. And then I literally will get paid at the end of the month. So one of the things that I do is I require that payment is done. I will deliver them invoicing by the 5th of the month and payment must be made and rendered to us by the 15th of the month. I want everything to be expeditious and quickly. There's two things that you need to master, right? And one of the things is that you understand what the payoff is going to be. So the payoff is going to be the cash flow. And the cash flow, if you really follow what I'm throwing down here, the cash flow is quick. So you literally get the deposit up front, or you get the retainer up front, the $1,500, the setup fee, sorry. And that's up front. So that's fast money. Anything at 6 months or faster is fast money, just like flipping in 90 days is fast money. Then you're going to get, you think about 6 months, you get month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all within that first 6 months. You should be paid. So if you're going to make, let's say you have 100,000, let's say you have a $150,000 property and you're charging 20%, that's $30,000. So you should be making like $2,500 a month. Multiply that times 5. I'm not real smart, but that's 12,500. Throw on the $1,500 fee. We're at 14,000. Then I charge $299, charge a retainer. Let's say you're charging $100 a month retainer. That's another $600. You're almost at 15 G's in the first six months, right? Now, if you go put $100,000 down on a $500,000 STR investment and you do it now in the off season, right? Let's say you're looking at a summer market, you're not going to see $15,000 in net income in that first 6 months. So this is one of the ways to be able to build up your cash, either to get out of your W-2, leave your job, whatever, or you're investing cash to be able to buy that first or next property. There's a reason that I actually do co-hosting, even though I've got millions of dollars of real estate, even though I know the secrets of creative financing to be able to do seller credits and that type of stuff. I still make over $400,000 a year. Listen closely, on 13 properties co-hosting. 13 properties. That's because you need to know how to scale, right? And I don't take on a property now that does less than $200,000 a year. So that means at the bare minimum, I should be making roughly around $45,000 a year off of that property. So, okay, Bill, well, 10 times 45, that's 450,000, correct. So you said you have 13, and we've heard about the OBX properties where you're doing almost $1 million a year in year one off of two properties. That's correct. But I also have a co-host, Jose Cornejo, who's one of my co-hosting and technology inner circle coaches that I split that income with 50-50. And I still have some legacies that are doing under 200,000 bucks. I have some that do under 150,000. I just haven't wanted to get rid of, but very similar to Mike McAllowix's pumpkin plan. Very similar, almost identical to that plan and identical to the way that I have purchased and leverage and manage and scale my own property. I do the same thing with my co-hosting property. Everybody that teaches co-hosting has masterminds and courses and everything else. It's all about volume. I don't want volume. And if you don't want volume and you want to maximize your time and your cash return, then pay attention, because literally you can start with a $75,000 a year grossing property, and you better not take on more than two or three, because we all only have so much bandwidth if we're going to do this ourselves. Now, if you want to go and train a VA and have them do all the work for you and do your revenue management and all that type of shit, more power to you. I'm hands on. That's why I ascend to the very top of the food chain financially in both owning and co-hosting. So I'm doing the revenue management for all but two of my properties. I do the guest communication. I do the listing SEO. I do the marketing. I do it all. And my wife helps me out a little bit in communication with cleaners and supplies and that type of stuff. And Chris, if you know who Chris is, my CEO, he has basically no involvement outside of some technical back end stuff with owner res when we're setting up a system. That's how I'm able to keep my margins so high. But if you take on those two or three $70,000 a year, $75,000 a year properties, remember, you're probably only going to be able to do 10 to 15 properties. So if you're 70,000, you're at 20%, that's roughly $15,000 each. So that's 45,000 out of three properties, combined. That's a lot of money and that's great to get started. But what happens when you're in number 11, 12, and 13? You get to the end of that road, right? So let's do some quick math. So if I have 13 times 45,000, that's 585,000 bucks. That's awesome. But what if you can pull that 13 down to 8? And let's see, at 8, so let's say 585,000 divided by 8, that's $73,000 of property. How do you make $73,000 of property? Right? Well, if we do $300,000 in revenue and we take 20% plus our commission, it really ends up being about 22%, is 66,000 times 8, 528,000 bucks. Right? So really the sweet spot is here is, let's just say 250,000 times 8 is 2 million, times 20% is 400,000. If you add on your extra percentage, you're going to make 450,000 to $500,000 a year. That's in gross revenue. You're going to have some technology costs and stuff like that, but you're going to net well over $400,000 a year if you charge the retainer off of 8 properties. If you can get to $200,000 a year in average gross revenue per property. Now, a lot of you may be sitting there thinking, Bill, you're the build short-term rental wealth guy. You have the STR Wealth Conference, all that type of stuff. People just got to flock into you. Almost every one of my co-hosting clients has been a referral, and it started with my very first co-hosting client. Almost nobody comes to me out of my mastermind, out of Inner Circle, out of the build short-term rental wealth bill, out of social media, because I don't talk about that at all. I mean, I don't market Kiva Vacation Rentals. I'm not trying to target, but if I was, I would be targeting a place like the Outer Banks, who has super high income potential. I wouldn't be in urban areas where the regulation is going to be tougher, where, the people that have properties there are probably going to be making less money. Those are the ones that are impacted the most. I'm looking at super high-end vacation rentals, and then I'm going to focus on two markets. I'm going to focus on a summer market and a winter market. That way I have offsetting income. Really important. Remember, my co-hosting business mirrors exactly how I invest. That's why I have winter markets. I've got a ski in, ski out condo. I'm in Banner Oak, North Carolina. I'm in Montana, which is both summer and winter. I'm still at the beach. I have lake properties. That's why I'm really trying to diversify geographically based on seasons of revenue. And I want to do that exact same thing inside of my co-hosting business. If you can nail those things, then you can be uber successful in co-hosting and make hundreds of thousands of dollars without needing 50 or 100 doors like everybody else is teaching. So, but before I move on, if I provided any value for you, take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. That's all I'm going to ask you for today. If I'm providing any value, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Now, here's the deal. I want you to focus on those two markets, one for diversification of revenue, but also newsflash, myth buster. Literally, that's how you fucking build a brand in those two markets. You don't see me when I started trying to build a brand in arbitrage and say courses and shit and doing arbitrage and then co-hosting and then owning properties and then all these other different types of things. I have really focused on one niche and then I bolted on, and that's investing and building a massive amount of wealth through scaling in my 550, 250 plan to get to bigger properties and boom, coming back to the beginning down to 400, 500,000 range and then scaling back up and then boom, get to that million, $2 million. In the most recently, the $3 million property. I closed on that $3 million Montana property. 2 weeks later, I went under contract for a $559,000 condo to restart the 550, 250 plan. The exact same mentality and execution happens inside of co-hosting as well. So the one thing that's different, and the reason I want you to do the two markets, not just from that diversification of revenue, But also, I want you to become the person of interest in each of those markets. I want you to be known as the luxury co host. I want you to be known as the person that does two things: saves me fucking time and makes me fucking money. Because if you can save me time and you can make me money, that is exactly how you're going to acquire customers. Now, instead of going to PropStream and pulling all the records and then sending out these, direct mail pieces where you've got to send 10,000 of them to get one person to bite, and then everybody's targeting the same, underserved Vacasa properties. Here's what I want you to do. And this is all in my co-hosting masterclass, and you can get it right down below in all details. And it is extremely cheap and affordable because I know a lot of you guys that are jumping into this need it for free. So you get my contracts, you see how I invoice. Most importantly, you see how I acquire customers. And that is through value, my friends. So all you need to do is to become good at revenue management and marketing and have just a tertiary skill of identifying what needs to be updated and worked inside of a property. And if you can literally agitate those co-hosts that are with other bad co-hosts or not being successful self-hosting, or they are those Vacasa or Evolve clients. But honestly, that's where I go after and really try to break into the local legacy PMs, just because everybody is being taught. Everybody's teaching the same thing except for me, right? Oh, let's go after all these Vacasas. Look at this 4.6, rating, 4.6, 5.6 here. We've got this method, that method. What I've got the how you make money method. And when you go in and you start helping people and you say, hey, are you sick and tired of your property being a second thought? Are you sick and tired of not making any money off your property? Are you sick and tired of getting all these maintenance bills when you don't know what's going on? The lack of transparency with your property manager? Hey, my name's Bill and I'm here to fix that for you. I'm going to make you more money. I'm going to let you sleep at night, and I'm going to be 100% transparent so you can see every transaction and every piece of guest communication. And by the way, my mission is to teach you how to do what I do so you don't have to pay me or anybody else to do this. Because look, we're all sharks. We're taking 20% off the top, and that should be going straight into your pocket. And if you set up like that and that's what your direct mail piece says, and that's what you post into the Facebook groups, or you run Facebook ads, and then you teach them how to do this on a free 45-minute Zoom. Yes, I use the word free. They don't have to pay, and you can get a free Zoom account to be able to broadcast for up to 45 minutes. You do 30 minutes of literally value. You give them the 3 to 4 things. You keep 7, like 6 or 7 different things that you do to move the needle. You build a case study, then you teach them. But instead of teaching them all 6 or 7, you give them 3 to 4. And so if you give them 4, you're holding back 3. And what are those for? Those are to guarantee that you're going to be able to get them back onto a Zoom when you're ready to show them their proposal. Because at the end of the day, if you help them through that Zoom, they literally are going to come to you at the end and say, hey, Bill, that's all fine and dandy, but I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I don't have time to do this stuff, but you sound like you really know what you're doing. Can you recommend somebody that can do this better than my property manager? And then you just sit here like Blake Shelton. I'd be more than happy to assist you. If you can do me a favor and text me or email me, your Airbnb link, your email, your cell phone number, and we'll set up a time to meet next time, to meet in a couple of days. Give me a chance to go through and audit your existing property. That's why you need to hold back those 3 things. And literally, if you really want to do what I do personally, you say, hey, text me your cell or put it in the chat in the Zoom, and I'm going to text you a new link, and we'll jump on a Zoom immediately when I get done, and I'm going to get you hooked up right now. So that way I can show you exactly what you're missing, give you a rough estimate of what we think we can do from a revenue increase. I'll need a little bit more information, but you want to, while they're hot, you got to strike while the fire's hot, right? So those are the ways to be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in co-hosting. And I can get deep into the technology and, how I own 13 properties, how I co-host my properties, how I have 6 other businesses that I'm running, and I still travel all the time, and I don't miss a soccer game with my daughter, and I'm still at home like I am right now in my studio. But that's inside the masterclass. And if you want that, check out the link down below. Thanks for joining me on this video. If you can acquire these skills, you're going to absolutely crush in co-hosting. You're going to be able to do it within 60 to 90 days. So if you want to learn how to scale your Airbnb business from 0 to 5 properties, check out the video to learn out how to you can turn a single investment into $250,000 in net income.